It has become very cold here in the UK. We've only just hit October, and that's it. Cold wind has just blown through. I mean, I don't know if you can tell, but I've layered up quite so much. I've got a jumper on and a wool overshirt, and I still feel very cold. But we'll get through it. I've been really excited to make this video for quite some time. This is a topic that means quite a lot to me, and I'm hoping you'll be able to see very shortly. And I'm hoping it'll be a good one, a nice little comfort little video. So yeah, welcome back to another video. If you haven't already, grab something to drink. I am drinking hot chocolate. I'm a bit of a hot chocoholic. I don't know. We'll go with it. Oh, and if you're probably thinking I'm not much of a floral person, this cup was actually my mum's cup. It was given to her by her mum, so my nan, and yeah, this is just what I've been using for now. It's just a bit sentimental, and yeah, so grab a drink and get comfortable. Growing up, I loved reading, and I mean, I really loved it. I remember when I was in primary school, we had this kind of yellow reading book. I think we just called it a reading guide, and we'd basically have to write down a log of all the books that we read within a week, when we read it, how many pages, what book, and a little summary of what happened in those few pages that we read. And initially I was only reading for the sake of it. I remember that I was reading particularly because we'd get prizes for reading consistently for a certain period of time, and so that was all that I was interested in when I was younger. But then as the years went by, particularly I remember it being year 3, I started actually reading things that I found interesting. And I remember exactly what series it was that I got onto, and it was a childish series, bearing in mind I was very young, year 3, called Astrosaurus. I am, and very much was, a very big Jurassic Park fan, so that book was just right up my alley. And so from years 3 to 5, that was all I read, and I absolutely loved it. Then when we got to about year 6, this is when we had SATs coming up, I was kind of pushed and forced into, reading something that was obviously more challenging and something that would, kind of push my vocabulary and my imagination. And I then started the Skullduggery Pleasant series, which is, if you haven't read it, an amazing young adult book. It's a fantasy book, got a bit of mystery, action, and a nice little magic system. And yeah, that was what I started reading from year 6 to year 9. And you're probably thinking, oh, is this whole video just going to be me going through every book that I've read? And it's not. I think something that I wanted to emphasize about that particular part in time was that I was very apprehensive in starting anything new. I read books like the way we watch comfort shows. It's familiar. We enjoy those times that we go through with these characters and the stories and the journey, and that's how I was reading these books. They were, had quite a large and long series, continuous series, and that appealed to me. Whether it was Astrosaurus or Skullduggery Pleasant, the ability to stay with these characters and grow with them, especially at that point, where we are transitioning from primary school to secondary school. I just really enjoyed it, and so I just enjoyed getting used to the author's writing style and I didn't want to move on. And I think that's something that's important to kind of talk about as well, is that it's okay to read only certain types of genres and stick to certain types of authors. Reading isn't a job, it's a hobby, and you are free to read whatever you want, whenever the heck you want to. Um, Obviously, at that age, I completely get it. You want to be able to diversify and get experience of a range of different areas, genres, and authors. But in more particular now, which I'll get to a little bit later on, I'm at that point where I don't want to be forced to read anything that I don't want to, and that's completely okay. So yeah, I was stuck reading Skullduggery Pleasant up until year 9, and then I stopped. I completely stopped reading for fun, and I never really picked up a book for fun until my final year of university. So, that's over 8 years of no reading, and I completely regret it. When I look back at my childhood, some of my best memories involved when I was reading. There's one instance in particular which just always comes back to mind, and I don't know why. I remember was that I was in the back seat of the car, my mum at the front and my nan in the passenger seat next to her, and they had just parked up next to this park, which was about 20 minutes away from home. I think they had got something to eat, and they were just having a nice little conversation at the front. Summer sun coming through the window, a little bit late in the afternoon, just before evening time, so it's just that lovely, perfect time just before sunset, the nice glowing sun through the clouds. And I was sitting in the back seat with my book, and I remember as well it was Astrosaurus book, and it was nothing out of this world. It wasn't exciting compared to in the large scheme of things, but it was so peaceful and calm, and I was having a blast of the time with that book. And that just sticks with me, and it's one of those memories that just make me tear up and reminisce about those old times. So, coming away from Memory Hill, last year I took a bit of a gap year from university, and I found myself with much more free time and flexibility than I had in a very long time. I should probably explain a little bit more why I stopped reading. I think between this time I was a very big overthinker, still am, and I tried to knuckle down with my studies, and year 10, 11, you got GCSEs coming up. Straight after that, you've got A levels, and then comes university. And so I thought, I don't really have time to even read. I was one of those students. I had to work 10, 20 times harder to get the grades that other people were getting. So I, completely cut out of my hobbies, my interests, and I knuckled down. But with last year and that little bit of a gap year from uni, I had a little bit of extra time, and I thought, why don't we pick up a book? It's about time. And I think this is a little bit of a thank you note to Star Wars. Growing up, I wasn't a very big Star Wars fan. I never watched the animation, I never watched the movies, but during or after A levels, I started getting into it. I remember me and my brother, we got a Disney Plus subscription, and I was like, let's see what all the fuss is about. And my gosh, I got it. And you're probably thinking this is a very big U-turn and divergence in the story, but I'll get to it. So yeah, completely fell in love with the universe, with the shows, with the movies, and there was one character, my gosh, who has become my favourite character within Star Wars. And that character's name is Thrawn. So up until, a few years back, which feels very recent to me, he was only in the animation shows, Star Wars Rebels. And guys, I've got to tell you, this character, especially within this universe where there's such a key importance to, mystical prowess and the Force, this villain truly stands out. He's just got this, or there's no other way to put it, he's got this aura about him. His calmness, his attitude, his intelligence. He is a tactical genius, which is what makes him so deadly in this universe. And he just became my favourite. And so during this time, before he got only recently introduced into live action, I was really excited to kind of dive deeper into the story and the background of this character. So I thought, well, there's not much out there. Why don't we read his book? And so I started reading the Thrawn trilogy by Timothy Zahn. And it did not disappoint. It is the book that reignited my journey back into reading. It's the first book that I willingly picked up after such an 8-year gap. And yeah, I completely ate that trilogy up. Something that am very proud of is that I finished that entire trilogy in about 3-4 months, which probably to some other people here on Book Talk and on YouTube, you'll hear probably read a book a day. But for someone who's had an 8 years gap in reading, quite pleased with myself for it. And yeah, that book was just amazing for sci-fi book, and I recommend that to any sci-fi fan and any Star Wars fan for that matter. That book is completely worth it, and I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with the character in the upcoming shows and movie. Anyway, that's enough harping on about Star Wars and Thrawn. As much as a fan I am, once I had finished that book, I became stuck. I was like, well, what's next? And then in perfect timing and with amazing, algorithm that YouTube has, I saw this YouTube channel. And I don't say this lightly, that channel has now become my favourite YouTube channel that I watch. And that channel is called Thomas R. Howell, named after the creator. And he is just an amazing person, and I love his videos. And I'll try and do a little pop-up of what the channel is. And he's actually one of the main reasons why I started this channel, because he truly showed me, if you have something passionate that you want to talk about, just open the camera and do it. And he's just built up this amazing community, and that's something that I hope to do. Anyway, he posted a video, which is one of his first videos that he posted, and I think it's one of the few that actually, really worked for him for his channel, where he spoke about his favourite book of all time, called The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. And I've just come from reading, obviously, Thrawn, a sci-fi book, and this is a fantasy book. And I was like a bit apprehensive at first as well, especially given my track record. And having come from a trilogy, I like to read books with a fairly good size sequel series, that I can stay with the character for a little while. But then I thought, let's give it a shot. It sounded enticing, and I thought, if it works, it works. And boy, did that book work. And unironically, it has become my favourite book of all time as well. So I say thank you to Thomas R. Howell for that recommendation, because that book, while it wasn't the first book that started me back on my reading journey, really sold me on sticking with reading, because it reminded me, of those good old times where you truly get lost in these stories and in a good book. And my gosh, the writing style, the characters, the dialogue, the magic system, just can't beat it. Really can't. It's not a short book by any means, but it's very, very intentional. It plays emphasis on all of the experiences, the emotions that the character Kavoth goes through, and you really experience his day-to-day life and the struggles that he goes through and the wins and the losses. And it has been the only book so far where I have truly felt everything that their character has gone through. And I'm not ashamed to say it, but that book made me both laugh and cry in public, and that's not something I can say about a book before. And so I am just truly thankful to have experienced that. And I get what people say now when they say, oh, I really wish I could read this book for the first time. I watched this movie for the first time. That book just wiped my brain and give me the chance to read it again for the first time, because it's that good. It really is. And for anyone that has read the book or hasn't, there is a bit of a controversy around the finale of this book. It was meant to be a trilogy. Book 2 has come out a few years, well, I say a few years, quite a few years back, and it's in fact been over 10 years. And we still haven't had that finale. But despite, everything that I've heard about the book before going into reading it, I'm so glad that I didn't listen to all those people that didn't recommend it or was put off or were telling people and putting them off from reading it, because it really is the perfect book. And I, without hesitation, do recommend that to anyone out there who enjoys fantasy or just wants to dive into something new. That book is perfect. So I have read a few other books since finishing Name of the Wind and The Wise Man's Fear, which is the second book. But I think that's enough for this video. And I want to end off and round off with this. Books play such an important part in society and in our lives in general. They're with us, and they live with us, for weeks or months or for however long that it is that we read them. And even after it, they leave such an impact. And I think it's so important that we just get back into the habit of reading books. And I think that everyone should just carry a book with them. Any book. It doesn't matter what author, what genre, what age rating it's intended for. I know a lot of adults who are reading young adult books. It doesn't matter. But, when you're going to an appointment, you're going in the car, just chuck the book in the next seat. You're going to work, grab that book, read it on the train. And whenever you feel inclined to pick up that stupid phone, just think twice and pick up that book, even if it's for a few pages, because your life will change. And I really do mean that. And I know mine has. Who could want more from a few pages full of ink? So comment down below at the bottom of this video, what are your favourite books of all time, or books that have left such an impact on you? Any recommendations? I would love to hear. And until the next video, fi amanillah.